The idea today on this presentation is to talk about oak in winemaking. So obviously we will talk about barrels because barrels are the reference of oak in winemaking, but I would like to show you all the tools that exist and all the ways that we can bring oak or use oak in wine. And not saying one is better than the other. I think all the different forms that exist have a place in your wine, and we already are here to understand which type of oak for which wine. So let's start talking about oak and why are we using it actually. We use oak in winemaking because we're extracting compounds from the oak that can be interesting in the wine. The first one is going to be the phenolic compounds. So the lagitannins, which are phenolic compounds from the oak, are extracted, and they have a very strong antioxidant power into the wine. So they will scavenge oxygen radical, having a very good antioxidant protection, giving an antioxidant protection to the wine. They also have this ability to buffer the redox potential, improving and elongating the aging capacity of the wine. So they're making the wine stronger and more resistant to oxidation. They will participate to wine structure and also color stabilization. The second type of compounds we can extract from wood is the polysaccharides. Polysaccharide will contribute to sweetness, wine texture, and color stability. The last category of compounds we're extracting from oak in the wine are aromatic compounds, and these will vary depending the type of oak we are talking about and the toasting. We will talk about this a little bit later. Obviously, if you use oak during fermentation, usually the impact of the oak aromas is much lower because there is an interaction yeast-wood that is very important, where the yeast can metabolize these aromas, more increasing the complexity, aromatic complexity, the fruitiness. Oak has this ability to reduce the perception of herbaceous and the perception of smoke, but not only the perception, it reduces also the amount of molecules, as oak is a physical support that can absorb these compounds. So there is more a technical approach to use oak in winemaking, which we look mostly on the mouthfeel and reducing any compounds we don't like. During malolactic fermentation, oak can be used to, there is an interaction bacteria-wood, and this interaction will basically, the bacteria can metabolize aromatic compounds, producing more toasted almonds, torrefaction, coffee, but also pastry and vanilla type of aromas. When you use oak during aging, without any microbial interaction, usually that's where we get the full impact of oak as we know it. So we extract all these compounds and they become integrated into the wine, giving complexity to the wine. Okay, so one important step in talking about oak in winemaking, no matter which type of oak we are talking about, is to understand how it is produced. And so I want to show you, I want to talk a little bit more about production, but here I'm showing you the picture of the unit that where La Motaguer does is oak products. So we own our own oak production, which, just to let you understand, we are controlling every single step of the process, from research and development to packaging. So we take care of the oak selection, the seasoning. We have cutting tools, we have toaster, we have convection and 2 convection ovens, 2 infrared ovens, and we also blend. We have big blenders. One important thing here is when we talk about alternatives, commonly alternatives to barrel has a bad image, because maybe 10 years ago, alternatives to barrel were produced because they were the waste of the barrel, but this is not true anymore. And this is a proof that we actually build full production units just to produce alternatives. That's where we focus on. We have a very strong quality control with a very strong high quality product at the end. Again, alternative to barrels is actually just oak for enology. Barrel is one of them, but all the other options that we're going to talk about can be as good as barrel. They are just here for maybe a different profile. They are just giving you different options. So talking a bit more of the production, we are using trees coming from France and USA. We're using the three species of trees, Quercus robur, Petrae, and Alba, which is American oak. All this is the same than the barrel production. We are using only the duramen, which is this middle part of the trunk, as a barrel production would do. We are seasoning our wood outside for 24 months in our unit of production, which is around Bordeaux. And then every single batch of wood that is ready to go in will get analyzed before we start the processing, just to make sure there is no contamination. Type of analysis we do, we run the haloanisole, the anophenols, the heavy metals, the microbiological analysis. All we are looking for is a zero, no contaminant in the wood. Okay, and then the last part is the toasting process. So we own convections and infrared toast, and you will see why later and why we are using them. But no matter if we make a fire inside the barrel or if we use a convection oven, it's always the same thing that happens basically. The composition of the wood is there is only 5 to 10% of the compounds that are extractable, which are phenolic and aromatic compounds. The idea of toasting is to transform some of the cellulose, hemicellulose, and lignin with the process of heat into aromatic compounds and extract this, increase this extractable part of the wood. Toasting process, usually lower temperature, that's where we produce the whiskey lacton that smells like coconut. Then we arrive to the eugenol, which is more cloves, spicy. Then we arrive to the vanillin, which basically increase the sweetness pastry characteristic. Then we have the dimethoxyphenols production, which is toasted brioche, creme brulee type of aromas. And then the furfural also is produced with higher toast levels that gives you this toasted almonds and coffee beans torrefaction. The aromatic change during the toasting is very important, but that's not the only one. There is also the phenolic composition with the polysaccharide composition that will change. So we have a different impact on the mouthfeel. At lower toast, we usually look at the structuring. We have a stronger structure, strong body. Then we arrive to medium, on the medium heat, we arrive to a profile that has a lot of sweetness, roundness, and volume. Then when we go into the higher toasting, that's where we look at persistency, aromatic persistency, but also length and tension into the wine. Okay? Again, this is a process that happens no matter which type of alternative we're looking at. So the heart of the webinar is to talk about barrel, which is a traditional wood container, basically into where the wine is in, versus all the other alternatives, which is all the different type of oak that exist, which is a newer approach where we think, let's put the oak, the same oak, let's put it into the wine instead of putting the wine into oak. Okay, that's really the idea here is I want to allow you to see all the different tools that you can have in front of you to use oak in your wine. We know barrel is one of them, so I'm using it as a reference, but that's not, the presentation here is not to say one is better than the other. The presentation here is to say, there is all these tools, all of them are good, please, let's look at them. So, but the first point is talking about the different challenges that we can encounter. So with barrel aging, we usually encounter some microbial risk because it is difficult to clean. A barrel is difficult to clean. There is a wood, there is porosities, and we can never clean deep enough to completely catch all the microbes that are like hidden in the spores of the porosity of the wood, but also some microbe can create biofilm to protect themselves, which is very hard if you don't have a physical action to remove. So barrel is difficult to clean, while any alternatives that you put into the wine don't require any cleaning because usually we don't reuse them. In terms of oxygen control, that's a pretty important point. In a barrel, we know more or less how much oxygen will go through. but we don't have a choice. That's what happens. And sometimes the wine doesn't want or doesn't need as much oxygen, or sometimes the wine needs more oxygen. And that's not something that we can do with a barrel, while we can with alternative. In terms of microbial risk, oxygen is food for microbes. So having a constant micro-oxygenation through the pores of the wood in a barrel is not on the favor of controlling microbe. Okay, so there is a better oxygen control with alternative, which allowed you a better microbial control. The last point that is probably the most important here in terms of microbial risk is the topping schedule, but also topping wine. Usually the wine used for topping is a keg that is partially full, that is a volume you don't care too much because it's a very small volume that goes into the full blend, so it's not always the best. But it is a wine that you are going to put in each of your barrels, which means it's a wine that is going to inoculate all the other barrels. So very commonly, topping is the source #1 of contamination of a full batch of barrel. This said, I'm only talking about risk and challenges, but there is solutions to make the barrel completely fine with microbial. There is a lot of options now to control microbial contamination. Regular analysis is one to really make sure your VA doesn't increase and your sulfur doesn't drop too much. You can check your lees, taste your lees before you use them. And also Kilbret. Kilbret is a wide spectrum antimicrobial agent. It's a pure chitosan product that will allow you to eliminate spoilage microbes, not only Brettanomyces, but lactic acid bacteria and acetic acid bacteria too. And it's used in preventive or curative, but it will help you to manage microbes in barrel or tank. I invite you to watch the webinar on microbial management, where I talk a little bit more about all these strategies and Kilbret too. So we just did talk about oxygen management. We know how much oxygen is released by the wood, and we know how much oxygen will go through the wood in a barrel. So again, we have a more or less idea. The problem here, or not the problem, but the challenge here is that we cannot change it. We cannot adapt to the wine needs. Okay, so whenever we put the wine into a barrel, there is a desorption of the wood, which is basically the wood is full of air. These pores full of air are going to be filled by wine with time, and so the wine replaces the air in terms of volume and absorb or dissolve the oxygen present. So we estimate that in the first months of filling the barrel, the desorption of the wood is about 10 to 11 milligram per liter, and then we get 10 milligram per liter of oxygen per year. That's a micro-ox, natural micro-ox that happen in a barrel. Then in terms of staves, staves are wood as well. So when you bring the stave into the wine, there is a desorption too, which is about 1.6 milligram per liter for our staves, which are the 18 millimeter thick. Okay, so calculating in a new barrel equivalent will arrive to 9 milligram per liter of oxygen. Then looking at chips, you can see on the graph here that basically for the same weight of wood, chips will have a desorption, so an input of oxygen into the wine that will be 50% less than staves. After this, you can use tools like micro-oxygenation to really control and adjust how much oxygen you want to bring to a wine and adapt it to the wine profile. Another point that is important to talk about is environmental impact. With alternative, we don't use any water since we are not looking at cleaning them because we don't really reuse them, while barrel cleaning is a pretty big source of usage of water. Carbon footprint for the same size container, same transportation, we can put 10 times more alternatives than barrels into the same container. So obviously our carbon footprint is going to be much lower using alternatives. In terms of recycling, they are both very good. We can use them for furniture, for barbecue, for plant pots. There is many other options. People can be very creative nowadays. Then the last point is just regarding us, La Motte Abier production. We recycle all our oak waste, if we can call it like this, basically all the part of the oak that we don't use for our oak enology. We produce our oak tannins out of it. So there is a full recycling here, no waste. The next part is economical impact. So I'm comparing the cost by hectoliters of 1 year aging in oak. Chips, blocks, staves, new barrel or used barrel of 3 years. As you can see, the cost of a new barrel is about 10 times higher than chips, blocks and stave, which are still lower than a used barrel. These numbers, I based them on the Institute French Institute of Vines and Wines that they did a study in 2015 regarding the economical comparison of oak aging. Again, I'm not here to say one is good, one is bad. I'm just saying maybe depending the style of wine you're making and how much you're gonna sell your bottle, you might think one or the other. Sorry. So the big part of this cost is the cost of goods, which is buying the barrel is about 10 times more than buying staves, blocks, sticks, cube or chips. So that's a big part of it, but that's not only. The other big part is the wine loss through time, which we call in French la part des anges, a very romantic way to just say wine loss. Here in this graph, it is calculated with a $10 bottle of wine. So this part can be much higher if we estimate the value of the wine higher. The time of aging is actually not put in it since we are talking about 1 year, but it could be in consideration. Storage labor, I think this is a little bit underestimated because there is actually much more labor and storage cost when we're talking about a barrel cellar than a tank cellar. And then the wine analysis is also a little bit higher cost and higher analysis when you are aging your wine in barrels, just because you have much more lots. Okay, then the last point, that this is a very interesting point, is the impact on the wine profile. So as we just talked about before, we are talking about the same oak now. We are not comparing different quality of oak. We talk about the same oak, we just talk about different approach and different shape. Okay, so the different shape will define how fast you have your extraction of this component that we talked about before, which means how fast you will have your oak impact on the wine. This is depending how long you have in front of you, how long you want to age, and that will be the question to ask, and then you choose which alternative is the best fit for you. Barrel being one of them. When we are looking at oak for enology, not a barrel, but everything else, we are looking at a much more consistent profile. So the reason is just that we are creating, we are putting down the heterogeneity that we can find within forest, within a tree, and within trees, and within one tree in particular. When we are making barrels, we don't have the opportunity to do such blends. So each barrel will be unique, which is a very beautiful romantic vision, but it doesn't allow due consistency. When we are talking about alternative to the barrel, we have the options to blend all these different trees, species of wood and part of the tree to completely flat the heterogeneity curve and make a product that is consistent. The last part with alternative is the fact that you have the possibility to have a full control on your wine profile. You can do bench trial, you can taste before you decide what to do on your wine. So it's you don't go blind, you know exactly where you're going, and it's a very pleasant way to see it because you have more control, but also if we are talking quality wise, having the possibility to adapt the oak and the oxygen to your wine, to the needs of your wine and how the wine can absorb it, I think this is quality. Maybe it's not romantic, but we are talking about a much more qualitative impact. The last point in terms of impact on the wine profile is talking about repeatability and homogeneity, where barrels are heterogeneous, we just talked about it, while alternatives are not. Another point that I didn't mention on our production method is our quality control is very strong. So at the end of the production of our product, we check every batch and we check the aromatic profile of them to make sure they are consistent. So now that we saw basically the pros and cons, and we're comparing barrel to alternative, which really that's not that's how everyone is thinking, I know, but that's really not the approach here. The approach is seeing barrel as one option of oak in winemaking and everything else as well. So barrel is one of them. La Motabier, we don't have barrels, but we do produce chips, we produce bowls, we produce sticks, cubes, staves, and blocks. Okay, and all these alternatives to barrel or all this oak for enology are gonna be having different impact because they have different shape and because they are toasted differently. So I'm gonna talk first about the toast. We have two type of oven, so two ways that we can toast our alternatives. One is a convection oven. Convection oven, just picture a giant wash machine where you can control the humidity and the temperature and the length that we keep the temperature at. So the convection oven here, the concept is to toast through the entire volume of oak. Differently than the barrel as it is a container where the wine is in it, the wine doesn't go all the way through, so we don't need the barrel to be cooked all the way in. Alternative to barrel, we put the oak into the wine goes all the way through the piece of wood, so we want to make sure it is cooked all the way. Okay, so convection ovens are used for this. They are very uniform, very homogeneous. We have a full control on the aromatic profile. It is the traditional way to toast any barrel alternative, any oak for enology, that's the traditional way. Then at La Motabier, we have a little bit more unique vision. So we are also using an infrared oven to create a surface heat. The idea here is really to replicate the barrel toast where you have the fire in the middle and the wood around, and so you start to create this gradient of heat and this gradient of toast to have complexity. That's what we are doing with our infrared oven, which is like a giant toaster that toasts from both surface, bottom and top. And basically what you are seeing is that in one toast, we are creating a lot of different gradients, so a lot of different aromas. Then if we talk shape, we actually are gonna talk time of extraction, time of contact. Here, if you want to understand the contact time you need for full extraction, you have to look at the ratio surface area and volume. When you have a big surface area, you have a fast extraction, you don't need as much time. And when you do have a small surface area compared to your volume, you need more time to extract. So the first one is gonna be chips, up to 2 months to extract everything. Then we can have cubes, 2 to 4 months to extract everything. The blocks will be 2 to 6 months. Then we have sticks, 4 to 10 months, and staves, 4 to 12 months to extract, to have the full extraction. That's what La Motabier is offering. On these categories of shape, we also have two categories in terms of toasting profile. So one approach is really the staves and the blocks, where we use a double toast. So we use a convection oven to cook all the way through the wood homogeneously. Then we use our infrared oven to create this gradient. So if you're looking at a barrel alternative, if you're looking at a more traditional oak impact and you're looking at this complexity of aromas, the delicate and refined structure, we are talking about blocks or staves. If you're talking about precision, aromatic complexity and precision oak profile, that's where we will go on a single toast convection oven, and here we will talk only about chips, cubes, or sticks. depending how long you have in front of you. Okay, so that's our offering. Now I'm going to go a little bit more in detail in each of them, so we understand really why, how they are made and what they can bring to wine. First one being the chips. We at La Motabier have traditional chips, which are a vocabulary that everybody use. I would say we all have chips that are French oak, light, medium, or medium plus toast. So you know, you have your reference and you know what you can bring to your wine. And then we have another approach, which is Eno blends. Eno blends, we work with aromatician and perfumer to develop blends that will have a strong aromatic impact, but a precise and complex aromatic profile. So we developed the Eno blend chic that is really bringing you the woody and spicy character with base notes of light vanilla. And then we have the Eno blend fun that is here ready to give liveliness to your wine and to give some sweet notes such as pastry, caramel, coconut. So that's where we focus on. The chips in general, we use them when we want a quick aging, we want aromatic complexity. They are used on white, rosé, and red as a blending tool. It's very commonly that we work not on all the volume, but just on few tanks to give some complexity and have more wine to blend in our final product. Then we go on the stick and the 3D, the cubes 3D. So I told you they are made in convection oven. Mostly these oak products are used during fermentation. So here we are really not talking about a barrel alternative. We are actually talking about another type of oak, which is used to get this integrate wood, very smooth structure, big volume, and we focus on precision of aromatic profile. We have 3 toast levels for this. We have the highlight, which is a light toast, giving you this light wood note on the nose, but also accentuating the fruit, the fruitiness of your wine, giving some roundness and some structure, but very slightly. The medium one, the medium toast is gonna be very sweet. It's gonna be caramel, vanilla, cinnamon, some light toasted almonds. In the mouth, it's giving you a sweetness, a length, and a smoothness. Medium plus toast is about spices, coffee, toasted almonds. We are on the darker, well, on the darker toast, but also there is some freshness into it. Medium plus is often used on a wine that is a little bit heavy or miss a little bit of structure, because it will give you some structure and persistency, length into the wine profile. Okay, so these are tools that exist that are mostly used during fermentation, but they can also be used during aging. No problem with it. So how we do sticks and cubes, basically we produce the sticks and then we cut them into cubes. So exactly the same profile. The main difference here is about the contact time. Sticks will need 4 to 8 months, cubes will need 2 to 4 months. So it's really about how long you have in front of you, but also how your tank is set up. The stick come in 3x12 stick that they are equipped to be hooked in your tank. So if you have the hook and the setup, you can go with sticks. If you don't, the cubes come in 2x6 kilo infusion bag. So you just have to tie the bag into your tank and you will be good to go. The last approach here is our staves and blocks. Here we are using a double toe, so we really are talking about barrel alternative here, and we are inspiring ourselves from the barrel. We inspire ourselves from the traditional toast of a barrel, so we did a double toast. Again, we need to make sure the wood is fully cooked inside, so we have to start with a convection toast, and then we do the infrared superficial toast. This is the result we get at the end. As you can see, there is a gradient of color, which is directly related to a gradient of toast and aromas. We have 3 different levels: the origin, the expression, and the absolute. Here you have the aromatic analysis of each of them. So our origin stave, that is the light toast in convection, light toast in infrared, is, as you can see, very rich in vanillin and trans whiskey lactone. So it's going to give you this coconut, vanilla, pastry, sweet notes, and also in terms of body, it gives you a lot of roundness and length. I tend to like a lot the origin on white, especially Chardonnay and Sauvignon, where it really gives this sweetness and roundness to the wine. The second stave or blocks we do is expression. Expression is a medium plus toast in convection and a light toast in superficial infrared. Here, as you can see, the aromatic expression is actually pretty low. We are not bringing much compared to the control, and that's the approach here. We want an oak that is very integrated, has a very low impact on the aromas, but we are looking more at complexity and structure and length. So in terms of the nose, we get some crème brûlée, vanilla, but in terms of mouthfeel, that's where we actually build up mouthfeel and aging capacity. The expression is the classic stave that would go on a big cab, for example, or even Zinfandel will absorb it, Merlot will get it too. The absolute is our last toast. So medium plus toast in convection plus high toast in infrared. Here we are looking at toasted nut torrefaction. As you can see, we have more furfural here, so we get more coffee and roasted almond notes, but also we have a lot of Swiss whiskey lactone that gives us very fresh notes of dill and eucalyptus that mix very well with the torrefaction notes. In mouthfeel, it gives you tension, length, structure. So that's very good on a wine that you want to give a little bit complexity, but also you want to give a direction to the wine in terms of mouthfeel. As the sticks and cubes, we produce a stave and then we cut them in blocks. So our staves are 90 centimeters long, 18 millimeters wide. That's a very important characteristic, the width of the stave. It will explain how complex we can be with our toast and aromatic profile, but also how long it would take for the wine to fully extract everything and to be integrated, to have the oak very well integrated in the wine. So the main difference here is the contact time again, and the way to use it. So if you have the tank set up for hooking, you can hook your stave in it. They come in a package of 20 stave. If we are talking about a tank without the hook and a shorter time, you can go with the blocks, and in this case they will come in 2 times 6 kilo infusion bag that you can hook in the tank or tight in the tank. The last oak for enology that I want to talk about is bowls. So we have oak bowls that are here not to oak the wine, but to boost a used barrel. So that's a way that we can bring some more oak into the wine that will be very well integrated, and also a very practical way to use our used barrel. So these bowls that you can see here are 3 centimeter diameter. They go directly to the bond hole of the barrel. And basically what is gonna happen, every time you stir your barrel, you will help putting the lees in suspension. It's a very good way to improve your stirring. But also the wine is going to go through and absorb the oak. We use only French oak for these bowls, and we have medium and medium plus toast. Okay, convection oven. Very easy to remove too. Once you empty your barrel, you just turn it and the bowl is going to slide right into the bond hole. So the last part, again, I'm not here to, my goal was not to tell you alternatives are compared to barrels, but that's how the world of oak is categorized now. So I'm adapting, and very commonly people ask me what is the new barrel equivalent dosage. So first answer to this question is, when you want to calculate it, please look at the equivalence in volume or weight, not surface. the wine goes through an entire volume. The wine doesn't touch only the surface. The surface is only here to help you understand how fast you're gonna extract everything, but not how much oak you are giving. Okay, and in the barrel too, the wine goes into a full volume. So here you have the table. Please give a look at it, and I'm happy to share this with you. And if you have any question on dosage, I will use it to help you. So the last point I want to say here is, because I think it's very important, with the oak for enology, except barrel, you can do bench trials. So there is samples that exist that we change the size of, for example, the stave. We're gonna make a mini stave that has a different size, so you can have a faster extraction. But we have samples to set up bench trials, so you can, in a few weeks, understand what would be the impact of the oak into your wine, so you can take a decision that is actually adapted to your wine, and a decision that is not random. You choose it. You actually take the decision based on real tasting and real trial on the wine. That's a big plus. It allows you a big control on the oak profile, and I personally think that it can allow you to reach a very good quality like this, because you completely adapt your winemaking approach to your wine. So how to set a bench trial? Just ask us a sample, call me, email me, and you can ask me samples. We will talk about which type of wine you want to do, what we are working on, how long you have in front of you, and then to decide with which alternative we go. Also, in some regions such as Sonoma, Napa, but also in Mexico and in Oregon, we can take your, I'm sorry for the other state, but we can take your bottles, set up the trial, and then come with you to taste if COVID allows us, or we will just drop the bottles at your winery for you to taste. Okay, so email me if you have questions, but mostly I thank you for your attention. Again, I repeat, here the objective of today was to show you all the tools, all the oak that exist in enology, including the barrel. Barrel is one type of oak for enology, but there is many other that exist where we have the same quality of wood, and we can have a lot of control and a lot of way to adapt our oak profile to our wine. Thank you very much.